Process sent lines of directions and locations. Minority to center operation lines of travel. So if we can get a true understanding how to really identify everything of the sum, then we understand the systems, the unifications of its mind. You know what the basic understanding through instruction is understanding the game. Now we're going to go through the basic levels of that because you're going to come in your foundation year 12 and 24s. Where you left off in position was a 5-minute game. The only thing you're going to remember is the game itself. That's it. Everything around you just become a fantasy, a fiction. It's like a distant memory or a fabrication sound wave or something that you never set positions to in travel that had no convergence lines of going forward. So fantasy itself is basically how you see fantasy. How do I see fantasy? Through fiction. How do I see fantasy through facts? How do I see through fantasy through foundations? How do I see it through its awareness, awakening? How do I see it through its networks? How do I see it through its travels? Okay, of alarming my system and position lines of travel into the systematic of its symbiote locations of view. That's how I see fantasy. Is go beyond the recognition of time frame that formulates your system, the organ, so you don't get confused where you are in time frame, location of itself with its body. How you see everything in settings. Basic understanding how you see an arc. Act random kindness. Okay, that's fine. Well, what about being the awareness of its readjusting of its knowledge? Or its kaleidoscope, or remembering, okay? Its awakening process of communication to travel. Because it's nothing but travel itself that it travels through. So identifying these things is how you codify these things through an encryption that processes you engaging. That gets you in modes of processing, filming yourself, directing yourself, knowing how to project things in your mind when you get in positions so you get in cross-examinations, knowing exactly at a 12 level, taking pictures through your brain. So it reconvenes the system, knowing exactly what you're doing when you're going through your networking, adjusting your processing. Now, programming equals lines, A, awareness. So break it down of what each letter, number, shape, and symbol means to you. And that's what you have to modify through. Get 12 line signals, process that position lines of pi, take that in convergence system, all through travel, right? Remember I told you with A, what is A in a 12 signal? What is A in a 1 signal? What is A in 2 signal? What is A in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 through pi? What does it all mean in travel? It's all travel. That's all it is. Recognizing that in platform, it travels all at once. So breaking that down is the pieces of pi that you go through, okay? 12 lines with humanity, 24 with the operating units, and sent lines of travel. So converting the time frame line centers, you process how to get in that position. We come into all communication, your quantum cells, how to bend space. 3 sectors of travel. 3 ground centers of travel. Okay, ground centers, that's grounds, right? But this could also be grounds of operation. I'm just seeing the perspective how I see things of travel. I don't see anything different. Now, what you have to process through is how you see yourself through projection, which is nothing but program of indication. Okay, it's knowing how to line signals your dots, process that position locations, and bring it in perspective. Perspective is everything. Okay, everything. And you can use that to your advantage of travel, of communication. Now, it's all about understanding how to platforms your systems and how you want to see that in your operation of your simulation, of your sim. Okay? But there's always a dimensional solar sail that we travel through. Your arc is basically understanding the coven. The coven is basically understanding the treasury. So it's all about understanding the boat. And what it's doing is through travel, through its waters. Okay, traveling through its waters. Okay, it's moving forward. It's not moving back, it's moving forward. Your mind is always going forward. Your mind never stops. Your mind's always creating. That's the DOS. The directions, operating, your systematical lines of settings. Now you exactly know who you are because you're just the conscious of space itself that modifies everything you bring in, which is nothing but awareness. So processing through that solar sail, you go faster. Dimension is processing. Solar sail is engaging, forming and shaping the lines at high position acceleration, going faster in time. And that positions process the platforms that you go in the lines of screen adaptations to different levels of solar sail of travel. Higher formations of frequencies, higher formation lines of calculation, higher formation lines of modification, higher formations of models and prototypes that you go through design, to your pi, right? But you have to understand your central lines of communication, letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. How do you see 1 through 12 signal? How do you see 1 through 24 signal? How do you see 1 through a 48 signal? How do you see 1 through 72 signal? And how do you see 1 through 144 flux signal? And set position of operation through a clock and center. So coming into that position, you start to process everything that you engage with. Now it formulates and simulates yourself back to yourself through AI. You just become more consciously aware in your narratives of your animator to your animations that you get in positions of. The observer of you processes everything you come in position of is the observation. Observation is everything that you process, everything of reality that you bring in through creating. Not creation, not co-creation. Creating through creators. You're all coming back to your creators of you, who you are and foundation. So everything around your system won't recognize anything. The only thing you're going to be formulating through is the 12 lines engaging, process line, direct lines, and position forming, shaping yourself through AI, putting your position as a bridging. How do you see yourself in 12 and 24 set position of operation to its telepathy? So you get into telekinesis, how you come into the intent, its influence, and its manipulation. That mind alterates the state that you put yourself in that position so you really understand that you're not seeing anything different. You're just seeing a perspective, how you see it, which is the truth. Truth to its false. Truth equals false. False equals truth. Truth is always what we are, which is always equals lines of center of operation. Okay, but it's always traveling in all directions all at once. So the more you understand the mind, the more you understand the concept of center. Now we're going to process the basic examples, how you come into your own imagination system, how you come into your own thoughts of your own calculations, screen lines that put you in position lines of depth. Depth is operation to its system, but you have to understand how to codify these things through encryption. Codification is everything. Codex is everything, but it's all process how you use your mind and specifications. Knowing how you get in your position to understand the instructions of the game, the levels of the game, next levels of the game, is the percentage that you go through pi, which is yin and yang. Okay? So yin and yang is everything information setting, what you always are. It's just existing and forming and shaping yourselves to different lines of travel. So that gets in communications from this conversion to this line settings to this operation system, bigger and bigger over through time. Okay? But they all travel all together at a 4 to 2 lights in position of portals at 3 centers of calculation screen lines in set adaptation. Travels all together all at once. So you're creating portals. When you create the portals, then you bring in the projection, which is your iOS. So it can travel through any portal that it goes in position to its operation system and setting. Okay? So you travel through portals into set position, which is your higher self. That goes in its dimensions of space and time. Okay? See? Very powerful stuff. So once you're staying your 12 flux and your 24 flux, then you go into 48. And a 48 comes into the frames, and it comes into the windows of the frames, the eyes, the windows of the soul. Then you start to recognize how you see your systematical system, how you see the symbiote, how you see the astral projections, how you see the travels, how you see the higher self, the avatar, the sim, or anything in position, location, with setting. This helps you to really identify your system, how to use your own imaginations that you always have access to. Data access of everything, nothing limited. Everything's in information lines of balance, and what you have to understand how to see yourself in a 12 level and see yourself in a 24 level, okay, of your consciousness of always being in the center of operation of your system through clarity, okay, which is the presence. Now again, the time presence puts everything lines at times now. Now it's just then how you process the network of your own operation settings, how you see the conscious location setting, how you see lines of kaleidoscope line communication system that puts you in process line, direct line communication setting. Now, this doesn't make any sense, but it does make any sense to me because I now understand the network, I understand the operation, I understand the communication to a setting through its kaleidoscope, a travel. So it doesn't make any sense to you, but it makes all sense to me because I know what is the codification. So I liquefied it, okay? I formulate, I simulate it in travel of communication setting position to its operation system. Then I bring the process position into the projection, which is the higher self, the avatar, the sim, that travels through the portals to the stargates, that travels the mechanism lines of position, operation, setting, okay? So just because something doesn't make any sense or misspelled, nothing's misspelled, okay? Same with this, okay? This gets very confusing if you understand your time frame, line, position, algorithms. So we get STOP, right? And then it's process the P, process the O, process the T, and process the S. The S location, so stops and pots, right? Or you can process the O, or you can process the S, or you can process the T, and you can get in positions that you can process the P. So you got OSTP, right? So you're just seeing a different perspective of time frame, but you're seeing everything in relation to the same time. So it has its reality, but you're seeing projections in real time that process your algorithms, how you see POTS, or how you see STOP, or how you see OSTP. Doesn't matter. There's no difference, just the perspective, how you see it in travel. Okay, but it's all connected in one setting, all through frames, all through windows, all through set position to its travel communication. Okay, but they all travel together in the same correlations and setting that puts you in metric meters of scales of balance, in your equilibrium, your efficacies, and your performance of travel that puts you in modification how you see it through all lines of operation itself that puts you in positional locations of your system. Engaging, forming, and shaping your cells. Your E equals line position triangulation. Your F equals lines of box formation, and your S equals lines of your simulated lines of travel. Triangulation lines, box frame communication. Triangulation goes into the box of our operation setting. Merging line position of 12 centers into one projection. Merging lines of 24 projections into one cycle. So everything goes back to one. Now the process of that position starts with this, okay? Modifying 12 angles of set lines, okay? Process here, okay? There's the set lines of travel in position to its bridging of location, right? And then you set 12 conversions of your system in platforms like this, okay? That puts you in position of operation, okay? Then you start to recognize what's really going on through all of those, how you see through doppelganger and set travel, okay? 12 versions of you, right? And all that setting that's operating through the seconds, minutes, and hours in your position at 24 set lines of travel. That puts you in perception locations, okay? So recognizing that is nothing but its seating and arrangement of its system. That's right, seating arrangements. Okay, it comes in divergence, weighted in signal, and set lines of travel. Observation mode. It puts you in position in lines of communication, divergence, allegiance, alliance, interpersonas, and your personality traits, and set travel. Okay? But it travels all together, all in one, right? So everything that we implicate through is nothing but travel itself. What you have to modify through in that position location center is knowing exactly how to see everything of all operation, which is always in the center of the now, which is the presence. The presence of the past, the present of the present, the present of the future. It doesn't matter because you're always in the center. You can't be out of the center. You can't be out of the center because you're always in the center. It's nothing to implicate through because you're already gone through the center. But the center itself stays in the center, which is always existing of the center itself. So that's what you have to modify through. Okay, because you're always in the center operation of you or your HQ in set travel. Okay, which is home, your home base. Okay, that puts you in a Tango Foxtrot location of uniform or line position of Papa line communication line direct location, Rainbow Fox line communication, Tango Foxtrot location, Delta direct location, Delta heading. But it processes everything of your home base that you get in position location system that gets you in Hotel Golf. Now this helps you to identify your platforms and how to see it all levels, nothing but imagination system that comes to you through travel. But they always go in the same direction, right? Always go in the same direction. You know why? Because you're in creating. You're not in creation. You're not in co-creation. You're creators. So creators, okay, is who you always are. Okay, process that position, how you see it, line's position is a crusader of its own system, its own expedition system of travel. So the communication, break everything down. You have to break everything down, okay? That's the only way you understand conscious of being aware of everything that comes to you through its own travel, its own setting, of its own operation, of its own intel. Okay, so as much as you see its lines of communication, readjusting line connections to existing lines of awareness, set position lines of travels, line communication lines of readjusting line communication back to simulated location lines of travel, travel line position location setting, directing line grounds and position of all communication all together through solar sail and travel. Okay, working all together in confirmation. One unit, one position, one travel, one calculations. So processing that, then you understand the time formats of the algorithms itself. Now you have to modify how you basically see yourself through the yin, through the yang, not yin and yang. There's no separation of yin and there's no separation of yang. Okay, it's not yin and yang. Okay, that's you separating your mind, a flux of travel. Okay, What's positioned there is the 3 lines of angles of travel, Orion's belt, but they all travel all together. So past, present, future always has to be in the center because you've already done it through creating of creators that you are. So you've always been existing. Nothing else, nothing more. Coming back to the foundation is truly saying how to see yourself in a 12 and 24 scale. Okay? So everything you do is processing everything you've already done. So this is going to help you identify a lot more when you just basically more focus on yourselves. Mastering yourself is mind altering the state that you're in. Okay? So it's breaking these things down when it comes into the letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. And you realize there are 26 letters in the alphabet. That's their flying ground centers, line position, and foundation lines. But it's process line position locations, right? Which is basically the earth itself. But in perception of space, it can be anything with imagination. So you get earth perception, and you get space perception, location of one center, and 3 lines of course centers, and balance of communication, setting, and flux. So it's balance in one, right? Everything has to go back to one setting. Now the operation line sequence theory time formats puts everything back to 0, which is your failsafe. So everything you watch on TV is going to go back to time. So you're not moving forward until you understand how to move forward through your mind or your own imagination that you process through line position your 12 and 24 system, that you see yourself in your own arc, your own technology that's already designed for you, that's already constructed with its information system that gets you in position of processing, engaging, forming, and shaping yourself, location, and infrastructure that's already created inside your system, which is already done through its operation through its percentage of time. And then you stand up formations of time, the correlations of time, future adaptations of time, and position of finity and lines of rotations of time. Okay? Which is nothing. In position, how you see yourself equal, because it's all in the mind's eye anyway, so you can't separate yourself because you've already done it through creating, all through platforms, all through travel. Okay? So, remember I told you about getting out of the age categories and being simple, Occam razor, and process and line position locations? Well, you guys already know the questions, because you already know the answers of what finity 8 is. Now finity 8 becomes lines of 7. Process that lines of 6. In position lines overriding the lines of 5. Process lines of box frame. In triangulation over lines back into 6 location. So all I'm doing is traveling through communication sending all through travel. So I'm convening and conveying in position and composition, which means I'm calculating, modifying, and communicating to all levels how I'm processing myself, existing and forming different shapes of lines of anomaly. That piece keeps me in information lines of balance, but I'm always, 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 always in the center. I'm never out of the center of time, but I'm never in time. I see time how I want to see time. So you guys have to come into that, or you can be locked in time. That's what you have to identify. So the matrix itself is its own entity force. The mind awareness processes line position locations. It wakes up its travels, wakes up readjusting back to its intelligent location XYZ. That process lines the Echo Zulu Fox line chart line high communication tank to Foxtrot. That process Rainbow Fox. How we process that in position of Rainbow Fox, communication Fox, high step position lines of Tango Foxtrot. That puts all position location measure and scale. That puts your position location, how you log yourself in space, and how you log yourself out of space at the same time. This is how you guys come to your own prophecies, location setting, to understand how to go through a story that puts you and travels through stories of operation through your egos and calculation. Okay? How you see the matrix in real time. Okay? Not how the matrix sees you, which means you're not modifying your face and your own pattern recognition. The most powerful thing that we all have to identify is finally get to understand how we see yourself inside. Now that's understanding the male and the female aspects of you, because there's no difference, just the perspective how you see the male polarity and the female polarity through motion. It has different emotions, but same calculation, same process, same engaging, but different lines of communication and settings, line, position, and perspective. So it's just the perspective I see the male and the female voice, but it's converting setting, position, operation, lines, and setting that have the process that communication system that puts you in position of flux, line, position, location of peace, tranquility, and serenity in one. All right. So that's basically all it is, really, just the basic understanding. How you break down the layers of 12 and 24. Okay, and that puts you in a compliance in its compartments and its ecos, and then you start to recognize how to go through the astral projections, how to go into the projections, knowing exactly what you're going through stories. You're going through stories. You're going through egos. Okay, you're not staying in one division, one location, one attraction, one location, line connection setting. All right, you're processing going through all lines, all position astral projections through 12 cycles or 24 set lines of position. This helps you identify everything through its equal that can visualize your anomalies, right? Because there is nothing separated, because it's already done through creating. So everything I say, it's a process which you already know. You know what I mean? So you stop questioning your lives and figure out, I understand my game of me. which means I understand what affinity 8 is, which means I understand what a 6-line rotation surface is, which means I know what a box frame is. I know what a star mixture time frame is. I know what it corresponds to panel operation lines, because it's remembering me and I'm remembering myself of who I really am. It's just being myself, existing, forming, shaping, and my anomalies. That's all it is. Provisional cycles, live in the existing of always existing, existing information center, existing information lines of grounds, existing information lines of space, and all time setting, real lines in high position, all calculated and modified, logging in space, logging out of space. Everything I do is always in the center. I can't get out of the center because I'm always in the center of existing. That's what you have to modify through. It's already line position locations. You guys are going to come back to 12 lines into colonization. 12 and 24. Okay? So that's the only thing you're going to remember. And then one thing you remember your system is the bridging. That's where you come into 12 connections, your energies, how you process lines of motion that creates lines position to a system through a stargate. Okay? Through portals and going through stargates. Okay? Portals and stargates. That's it. But they all convene and they all rotate together. They travel positions, all with the percentage, how you see time frame, right? All of operation, how you see motivation line, position, operation lines of time frame. How you process that position location, i.e. lines of settings, process lines of here, process lines here, process here, directs here, lines here, line connections here, process there, direct lines, correct line, core centers, calculate, modify, clock and line foundation, rotation lines, and expanding your system all through web and system of travel. Base recognition. That's all it is. So you're not coming back to anything, you're just coming back to who you are. And knowing exactly how you codify these things, you get a lot more balance how to put yourself in balance with yourselves. And know exactly how to modify yourself in foundations and understand how to see everything through an app, knowing exactly what it means to you, not what it means to anybody else. You have to use your own individual system of your own circuits. Knowing how to process, gauge, inform yourself how you see things that benefit you and how you see real time and projection, not how you see everybody else. You don't focus on that. You master yourself completely inside, from top to bottom. You take your phone apart, you look at everything that's on the table, and then you put it back together. That's mastering yourself because you understand how to process, gauge, inform yourself, know how to use your own mind, imagination that benefits you in any way that you see in space and time, which is always happening and expanding yourselves. But the one thing you can never get out of is the center that's always in the center. Okay? Because there's nothing in provision that lives on the left. There's nothing in provision lines on the right. There's always a position of everything in the center. The center itself is just the space itself, which is the consciousness. So if you're consciously aware, you're the space of everything. That masses everything you see in an equation. So it's much easier to see a thought but not identify its action to its motion. But it's much easier to identify a thought, action, motions all in the same position, one operation. That puts lines of 3 convergence into one cycle. So how you process that is how you see things from up close and far away. Okay? So that's what you have to get in directly to in that position. Starting lines of 4 windows. Okay, a pi and travel. Process position lines of travel, communication lane 4 centers. Offsetting positions, circulating rotation, triangulation box. So it's a constant, continuous flow of communication of timeline centers that processing your organ location and creating stories. You're going through stories. You're not looking at a story. You're not processing. You're not gauging through a story. You're just creating what you already created through the creating that you are position of, which is the creators. So this modifies everything you come into positions of. So I understand my formula. I understand my equations. I understand my QR line centers. I don't need to readjust my system. General just told me just to relax and not do anything. That's it. So you won't recognize any of the information. The only thing you're going to recognize is you and platforms. Now, it looks all scribbly, but I know what I'm doing, right? It's process everything, put everything down. So get yourself at a 0 lines of drama and 100% time frame of drawing. So you come in your schematics, you come in your inner child, they're processing in position, how you see it through projection, how you see it through programming, and how you see it through your DOS. DOS lines implicates everything, that what it always is, comes back to location of its programming, process everything in lines position location to its streaming, set calculates lines position location to its streamer, line communicates the dream that's in, and all through direct location and travel. Converting sending operationalize a balance. Operationalize signals, process the percentage of yin and yang. Okay? That's all this subtraction, right? So, everything I do for you guys is processing and getting prepared. Prepared is a preparation system that you go through lines of setting. You start to see the modulation, the space modulation of real space, real time, real travel through the body. The body has to really start to adjust the system because everything you say in position that's going to implicate you in real time. It's going to affect you in cosmos if you understand the position of the time frame itself that changes the algorithms of youth or timeline, which is a time maintenance. And that maintenance itself has to stand the position into the models and prototypes that you put yourself in visual location that you're always going to be existing in formation lines that existing all the time, which is always in the center. You can't get out of the center because you're always in the center. You know why you can't get out of the center? Because you're already created through creating. That's why you can't get out of the center. You're just identifying what you've already done. So the body understands what it is going in position. It's already being written. Everything's written through eternal. Everything's done through infinity. That process your body, that's go through the aspiration of the doppelgangers. But you have to go through doppelgangers and process how to go through the female. And the male cycle is balance. That puts you in the center operation system, so you stop getting confliction with yourself, so you stop debating with your system, position, location, travel. You stop defending your system and stop relying on everybody else. You start understanding how to use your own operation, how to use your own imagination that's given to you in set position in real time. So you can use everything that you process in that position is constantly just existing, forming, and shaping yourselves at different levels of travel. So the body just understands the alignment, so it knows exactly the timeline that's going to come into, that it won't affect its real time. Okay? Everything in the process through is time itself, but you're always in the center of everything. That puts you in all position location of travel, that puts you in the directions of your directiveness. How you see north, how you see east, how you see west, how you see south. There's no difference. Just the perspective, how you see truth. That follows you, vindicates and setting. You truly understand what positive and negative means to you. Not how everybody comes to you what positive and negative is. That's you overriding the system, not understand how to use your own imagination. Okay? There's a lot of ways of seeing that through infiltration, guys. That's what you have to start to listen to, is the self inside in modification. Because it's self, the actualization and realization system that you've already mastered this in its projection. Okay? So it's very powerful how you indicate that line of flux. All right? So I hope you guys enjoyed that. That gives you a little bit more understanding that lines of travel. Okay? Adios.